where I want to go with this interview is okay, we have firmly established beyond any doubt at all in any watcher's mind here that we know what we're talking about and that it's a good idea to be a homeowner,
There's
right?
benefit. There's
Nobody
benefit.
nobody has any doubt. So now the question is, how do I go about it? And honestly, when I was talking to you about this, it came up in one of our meetings where realtors were saying, you know what, we've got people that are afraid to pull the trigger. They're ready to go. But I was thinking about it. I've got a son in high school. He's only 16, but still within just a few years, this is on his horizon.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, I never learned any of this in high school. I never learned any of this in college. In fact, I made some big mistakes as an adult with a real job and all of
Yeah.
nobody ever taught me any of this stuff. So what would I want my kid to learn, even if he were in high school right now, to just start thinking about? And so one of the first places I wanted to start is if I'm thinking about buying a house, I've got to have a credit score. And I didn't even know what a
Yeah.
credit score is, how it starts out. So as a lender, that's more of your realm, right? Because one of the first things you do when somebody wants to buy a house is you're going to run credit. Will you talk about that a little bit and why
Yeah,
maybe
for sure.
me going on a freecreditscore.com isn't maybe the way to start?
Maybe not the way. Have I ever told you my credit story, Eric, in our 20 some years of knowing each other?
What?
Maybe I have. I'll tell you again. So I graduated from law school at the University of Utah. Never practiced law. I've been a mortgage broker my whole adult career, but it's been really helpful. It's great background. When I graduated from law school, my credit score was terrible. I had three things on my credit. I had a car loan that I'd made late payments on because I just didn't even realize that it mattered. And I had two collections. One of them was for a parking ticket and one of them was for a library fine. So before I could sit for the
That's the
bar,
basis of your credit score.
that was the basis of my credit score. Delinquent car loan, two collections for a library book fine. Before I could sit for the bar, I had to go and clear my collection accounts with the public library and pay my parking ticket. Ironically, the parking ticket was because I parked directly across the street for too long from the law school. So I started at, let's say, meager credit when I was entering into that. And what I've learned over the years is everybody starts at different places. A lot of people have better education, some don't. But to your point, you're coming out of high school or even college, and for me, law school, and I was in the mortgage industry, and I just wasn't paying attention to it because it hadn't dawned on me. This really, really matters. So, if nothing else that people take away from the next couple of minutes of conversation, I want it to be credit is going to matter. No matter what you do, credit is going to matter. It impacts how much you pay for insurance. It impacts how much you pay for debt when you buy a car, when you get a credit card, and specifically when you buy a home. So building credit is pretty easy. There's a couple of factors that go into it. And the key one is how long you've had credit. And so for somebody watching this that's 18, the best thing you could do is start building credit early. That can be as simple as getting a secured credit card, meaning you go to the bank, you give them a few $100, they give you a credit line, it's less than that. And then you use that to buy your gas and groceries and you pay it off or pay it down every month. And you show that you have the ability to manage money. Maybe you have a car loan. So building credit. So how long you've had credit is a really big deal. That's easy to do. You just have to start. And it doesn't take that long. You can build credit within a year pretty quickly. I recovered from my terrible credit score of, I don't even remember what it was, but it was bad, to a reasonably good credit score within about a year and a half of actually focusing on it. And I was coming from nothing and was able to get up into a significantly higher credit score that, opened up the door for a lot of things for me. So I feel what you're saying because I should have known, right? I didn't really know. And so I don't think a lot of people understand that. So number one, how long have you had credit? Number two, what your history of paying credit is. Do you pay your bills on time? Are you like me and you park illegally and then you pay a parking fine that goes to a collection, or you don't turn your library book? I don't even think they do that anymore. Do you make your payments on time? And a history of making payments on time is a huge deal. I've had clients over the years where they've had a 10 or 15-year credit history and they had one payment go late and their credit score dropped by 150 points. And that's a huge deal. So every payment on time, it just has to become the habit. And then number three, how much debt do you owe versus how much your credit could be? So if you have a credit card and you have a balance of, let's say, $500, and the limit on that card is $1,000, you owe 50% of your limit. If you owe more than about 20% of your limit, it's going to start hurting your credit. And so if you can, when you're trying to build your credit or establish or even grow your credit, if you can keep the balances on your credit cards low relative to the limits, that has a really significant impact. And the thing that people don't know is it's not what the balance is every month when you pay it off. It's what the balance is when it happens to be reported to the credit bureaus. And the way that credit gets reported is on a revolving 45-day window. In other words, it's not always reported at the end of the month or the beginning of the month. It's at different times for different creditors. And the idea behind that is it keeps people from gaming the system. But what that means is at any point during the month on your $1,000 credit card limit, if you have more than a $200 balance, it could negatively impact the next credit report you pull. So you just need to be aware of what are the limits, what are the balances, and what can you do to keep those ratios relatively low, so that you can actually have that help rather than hurt when it comes time to look at getting a mortgage, whatever you're going to do with your credit. If people did those three things, they're going to have a significant improvement. What I wouldn't do is go to, you mentioned myfreecreditreport.com. That's actually a paid site. They've done great marketing. It's a great website as far as the marketing piece and the name of it goes. But when you go there, they're just the credit bureaus, and then you're going to pay for the service. What, again, a lot of people don't know is you can actually get a copy of your credit report for free every year from all three of the credit bureaus. So you can get 3 free credit reports directly from the credit bureaus. Go log in, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. You can access that. Once you log in, it's very easy to use their service. If you want to put a lock or a freeze on your credit, you can, so people aren't messing with it. You can get your report annually so you can see what's going on. The only thing you pay for is your credit score. By the way, consumers should never pay for their credit score. Consumers, I don't know if you know this, Eric, consumers actually have 51 credit scores. Did you know that?
I knew there were a lot.
There's a
But what I
lot.
think a lot of people don't know is they're like, hey, this is my credit score.
Right.
And they go and they say, yeah, my credit score is, 700 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And what they don't understand is that there's lots of different credit scores.
Yeah.
So for
There's
example, if I
17
take
per bureau, right? There's
yeah,
51 that
yeah.
I'm aware.
So if I go to you and say, hey, Alan, this is my credit score. What kind of a loan can I get? You're going to be like, I don't know what credit score that is. Is
Yeah.
it the credit score that I can use to determine mortgage loans? Is it the credit score that was used to determine if you can get a car? Because they're not the same thing.
Not the
Mortgage
same
loan,
thing.
car loan, we're playing different ball games here. Another thing that I think is
So,
important to
so
point
the
out.
jumping off point on that, Eric, for me
Yeah.
would be, don't do that. Know what your credit is. But if you want to know your score, contact a mortgage lender and say, I'm getting ready to buy a home. I want to prepare for a mortgage. Help me get my credit score, because then they're going to provide you with a score that's actually going to matter. And I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, you're right. So if you said, and I'm just going to clarify one thing that you said, if you want to know your score, again, for the purpose of this video, it's if you want to know your score in order to purchase a home, then you talk to a mortgage lender, because that's
Yeah.
going to be different score than if you want to know your score to purchase a car, right?
Or get a credit card. Yep, exactly.
And so another thing, I was raised kind of conservative, and I didn't understand this again until I think when I worked for you. But it's this idea that I bring the conservative thing up because borrowing was a little bit shameful. I don't know,
Yeah.
so save up your
That's
money,
bad.
be responsible, pay cash. And I never realized it until I was a loan officer and I was dealing with a gentleman one time and he's like, yeah, I've got cash. And I'm like, do you have enough cash to buy the home outright? Well, no,
Yep.
I need to get a loan, but I should have perfect credit. He had no credit. And no credit to a bank is just the same as bad credit. They don't give you the benefit of the
Exactly.
doubt. Oh, we just assume that you're probably a really good guy. They don't make that assumption. They assume you're probably the very worst type of borrower. And so you get very bad rates. So
Yeah.
even if
And,
you
and, you,
have
and there's going to be people who are going to tell you, like, I'll just use Dave Ramsey because he's very open. He's going to tell you can get a credit, you can get a mortgage without a credit score. That's true, but it won't be anywhere near as good of terms as if you have a good credit score. So it's possible to do it. Don't let that stop you if that's your situation. But if you're planning ahead, you're going to get a lot better deal with a good credit score than you will with none.
but you can strategically use debt. So if I get a credit card, I'm using it strategically. I'm not using it because I don't have cash. That's not, even though credit cards have kind of convinced us that's what they're for. That's not what they're for, right?
No.
They're convenience. But if I get it, I keep my limit or my spending under 25% of what my limit is. I pay it off every single month. What that shows the credit bureaus is that you can give me a loan and I'm responsible. I'm good for it.
Yeah,
That's
that's
going to
exactly
get
right.
paid off, right? I'm not maxing it out every month. I'm not getting a new card and shifting balances over to the new one. That looks terrible on a credit report. So if I'm
Yes.
brand new, I get a card, I don't max it out, I pay it off every month, showing that I am good for getting a loan. And I might be more experienced in life and be able to do that with a car. I could go in and buy a car with cash, but instead I might want to say, you know what, I'm going to get a loan on this car and I'm going to make my regular payments on it. And in 6 months, usually the car companies don't like you to pay it off quicker than 6 months or they get dinged with it. then I can pay it off. And doing that kind of thing consistently, using debt strategically, helps you have a high credit score. So, anyways, that's the first thing
Two
that I
two
want.
notes let me make on that come up a lot when I
Yes.
talk to people about credit. It used to be that you could add someone on as an authorized user to a credit card, and then that would give them your credit score. That's changed. And so the idea would be mom and dad are going to add the kids onto their credit card, and now the kids have a really good credit score. It doesn't work like that anymore. They have to have their own credit established. It'll show up on the report, but it doesn't drive the score as much. And so you've got to have your own credit established and do it early. Number one. And then number two, you mentioned the car loan. Those are really good. Stuff like that. Borrowing for the sense of getting a credit report, people look at that, go, well, that's a terrible idea. The reality is that's part of being an investor. That's part of being in the adult world, getting insurance, buying cars, buying homes. Your credit's going to be important. You may have to put some time and focus into building it like any other asset, but your credit's a big asset. And so, yeah, it's worth putting in some effort to build that asset because it's a big deal.
We spent a lot of time on this, so I'm going to jump
Yeah,
to the
move
next
on.
topic, but I'm going to be really quick on it.